If you're hoping to visit Europe for Christmas markets but aren't sure where to start, this video is going to share 7 sample one-week itineraries that are all doable with public transport and begin in cities with large international airports to get the bubble rolling. Now, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com. And this channel is all about practical travel tips from someone who's been there, done that. So be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. In today's video, I am focusing on itineraries that I've personally done, which is why there's a huge emphasis on Germany and its neighboring countries because I used to live in Munich. That said, be sure to check out the written version of this guide for more ideas. And feel free to share your own personal itineraries in the comments as well to help out your fellow travelers. I admit a lot of the itineraries in this video are pretty ambitious and you could easily stretch them out to 10 days or more, but this video is for people who are working with a short time span, so I hope it's a helpful starting point. Now, the first itinerary I'm going to share with you is called the Alsace Advent Tour, like Advent Tour, adventure, get it? Sorry, I gave all these itineraries different names and they do get worse as the video goes on, so I hope you enjoy this. This itinerary is of course focused on the magical Alsace region of France, which is famous for its storybook villages, half-timbered towns, and its beautiful Christmas market decor. Not to mention some very, very delicious wine as well. So for this itinerary, what you're going to do is you're going to fly into Strasbourg and stay there for 2 nights. Your first stop should definitely be Strasbourg Cathedral, which is the major landmark of the city and is really special to see in person, especially because during the Christmas market season, they do have some festive stalls set up in front, so it's a very scenic place to grab a mulled wine. From here, you can easily walk to many of Strasbourg's other Christmas markets. I really enjoyed going to Place Gutenberg nearby, which when I went in 2019 had something called the International Guests Christmas Market, which was basically each year they invited a different host country. So for 2019, the country was Lebanon. So there was food and lots of different things from that particular host country, which was very, very fun. There's also the Christkindlesmarkt, which is really, really worth seeing. It is considered one of the oldest Christmas markets in Europe, and there are tons of different stalls there to check out, lots of different foods, so I really recommend going there as well. One of my personal favorites though is the Alsace Small Producers Market, just because that market focuses on local makers and creators, and that's where you can get a lot of local goods that you're not necessarily able to find in other places. So definitely worth checking out if you're looking for food gifts, especially because there are a lot of really tasty options. Now for day 2, you can definitely stay in Strasbourg if you want, there is plenty to do, but if you have the time, I do recommend taking the train for 30 minutes and going to the lovely town of Obernai. Their Christmas markets are really cute and it's quite a small town, so you can easily cover them all in just a few hours. The architecture here has that classic Alsatian storybook vibe with the half-timbered houses, but also the markets themselves are really, really cute, and I thought that the stalls that they had here felt a bit more authentic, less mass-produced stuff, and overall the vibe is just a little bit quainter and nicer, so I would definitely recommend checking it out. It was one of my personal favorite surprises during my week-long trip. You can then head back to Strasbourg and check a few more markets off of your list. One market in particular that I would really recommend for sunset time is the Alsatian Delicacies Market, which is right along the river. This is, as it sounds, a market that's dedicated to Alsatian delicacies, including a lot of great wine. So I thought it was really, really nice to just grab a glass of wine here and kind of watch the sunset on the river. And after the sunsets, you have a lot more opportunities to visit other Christmas markets, including unique ones like the Off Market, which has a really cool focus on sustainability. Now for day 3, it's time to hop on the train and go to Colmar. This train ride only takes about 30 minutes, and then you're transported to probably one of the cutest towns in the Alsace, but also one of the busiest. We'll be spending 2 nights here as well, and luckily there are 6 different markets around the city to explore, so plenty to fill your time. There's really no particular order I would recommend doing Colmar's Christmas markets because they're all, relatively speaking, quite easy to do in a short period of time. But I would recommend saving the gourmet market, of course, for lunch. At this market, they bring in professional chefs to create a special festive dish, so you get to try some more gourmet options compared to the regular Christmas market fare. So definitely worth checking out. Otherwise, I would just recommend walking around the city and discovering some of the Christmas markets on your own because it is quite a compact place and it feels a bit more magical when you're just kind of wandering and getting lost. On the next day, day 4, you can of course stay in Colmar, but what I would personally recommend is taking the time to visit some of the smaller little villages very, very close to Colmar. In particular, Egisheim, Turkheim, Kaiserberg, Rückewier, and Ribeauvillé are all accessible picks. But do note that some of them are only open on the weekends. To reach them easily, you can hop on one of the Christmas shuttles from Colmar, although do be aware that these do book up very quickly, and the only one that runs every day is to Egisheim. That's not a bad thing though. Egisheim is really, really cute and honestly feels like the town from Beauty and the Beast, so definitely worth checking out. Now on day 5, I would recommend visiting another one of those smaller villages that I just mentioned. And if you don't mind moving your stuff around too much, then I would really recommend staying overnight in one of these villages as well. Just because to be able to be there and explore before and after the day trippers arrive is really priceless. I personally did this in Egisheim and rented one of those classic half-timbered houses, and just the experience being able to see the town before all the crowds arrived was so incredible. If you'd rather not hop around too much, then what I would do is from Colmar, hop on a train directly to Mulhouse, which is only about 30 minutes away, and then stay there for 2 nights. Mulhouse to me is a really underrated Christmas market destination because they have something there that I actually haven't seen in any other Christmas market in Europe. And that is every year they have a special Christmas fabric. And this is something that pays homage to the textile industry of Mulhouse, but every year they have this new pattern and design. And you'll find this pattern all around the city, decorating different stalls, on the mulled wine cups. And you can even buy this fabric by the yard at the town hall, which I think is really cute. So for that reason, I think Mulhouse makes sense to visit, and it also makes a pretty good base because it's a relatively large city, so there's quite a few affordable hotel options as well. That said, Mulhouse is pretty small, so on day 6, what I would actually recommend is you take the train down to Basel, Switzerland. So you can hop on the train and be in Basel, Switzerland in just 20 minutes, and the markets there are really lovely and worth seeing for sure. Especially if you want to tick another country off your list. You could also opt to stay 2 nights in Basel rather than Mulhouse, but Basel is of course more expensive because it is in pricey Switzerland, and because the train is so close, I feel like staying in Mulhouse just makes more sense in terms of value for money. And for the last day of the itinerary, I just put departure, so leaving time for you to get to the airport that you're flying out of. So that's the first itinerary done. By the way, I should say if you're overwhelmed with planning, I did publish a video last week that's all about mistakes to avoid with your first Christmas market trip, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. Now the next itinerary on our list is the festive Frankfurt and Friends itinerary. On day 1, of course, we're flying into Frankfurt, and I recommend that you stay there for 2 nights. On day 1, I would recommend you just stay in Frankfurt, exploring the main Christmas markets around the city. The biggest one can be found at Römerberg, which is pretty much the only place in Frankfurt you get that storybook feeling because most of the city is in fact quite modern. A perk of that though is there are a few very unique markets that you can visit in Frankfurt, including a rooftop one at the City Beach Rooftop Bar, which has amazing skyline views, so a really ideal place to go for sunset. And of course, there's also Frankfurt's own Pink Christmas Market, celebrating the city's LGBTQ+ community, which has a super fun vibe for the evening. Now for day 2, you can definitely stay in Frankfurt and see more of the city, but if you're looking for more storybook vibes, what I can really recommend is hopping on the train to Mainz, which takes about 45 minutes. This city is really beautiful and has several different markets to explore. The main one being in Marktplatz with a glittering canopy of lights that's definitely worth seeing. Now on day 3, we're gonna hop on the train and go to Stuttgart, which is a train ride that takes about 2 hours. And we're also gonna be staying there for 2 nights. Now I'll be honest, Stuttgart as a city isn't the prettiest, but I do really recommend you go there for Christmas markets for 2 reasons. The first is that it's a very well-connected transport hub that is very well connected by train to many other places. And in addition to that, its Christmas markets are actually really nice. The City Hall, for instance, becomes a giant advent calendar that opens up a different window every evening, and the stalls in front of the City Hall are actually really beautiful and elaborately decorated because every year they actually host a competition to see who can do the best stall decor. They also have a Nordic-themed market and a few others, so Stuttgart is definitely worth seeing for Christmas, even if you haven't heard the best things about the city itself. So spend day 3 exploring the city and its markets, and then on day 4 we can go out and explore some smaller, cuter markets. The problem is though, Stuttgart is surrounded by too many cute towns. A must-do for Christmas market lovers, in my opinion, is Esslingen. It's only 10 minutes away by train, and it's honestly one of the cutest towns in Germany you'll find, especially during the festive season when they have not one but 2 different Christmas markets, a traditional one and a medieval one that honestly commits to the theme more than any other place I've seen. Coming here really feels like a step back in time with a lot of cool medieval vendors, medieval food stalls, and because of its proximity to Stuttgart, I just think it makes the perfect day trip, especially if you're into a little bit of time travel. Another one of my favorites is Ludwigsburg, which is a really beautiful Baroque town that has a gorgeous Christmas market in their central square, and also a few random bragging rights, like they host the largest pumpkin festival in the world, and they also have the world's largest piggy bank for some reason. And if you don't mind going a little farther, there's also Tübingen, which is about an hour away from Stuttgart by train. This town, in my opinion, is super underrated. Not a lot of tourists tend to visit when they're in this area, and I think that's really a shame because it's just super, super cute, lots of beautiful pastel-colored architecture as you would come to expect from the region. And they do have a Christmas market of their own as well, but the dates are fairly limited. If you can though, double check the dates before you go, because every year Tübingen does host a chocolate festival that's really, really cool to check out. I went there one year for it and it was pretty magical, lots of chocolate with a really beautiful backdrop. So be sure to check that out if the schedule matches. Now for the last 2 nights of the trip, what I recommend is heading over to Munich, which you can access by direct train from Stuttgart. If you take a high-speed train, this takes only 2 hours. Along the way, I should say, if you're open to a fun side quest, one of the stops that the train goes through is Ulm. And this is a city that is known for having the tallest cathedral in the entire world. And because it's Germany, of course, they're going to have a Christmas market right in front of it. So if that's something that you're interested in seeing, then you can definitely get off the train at Ulm, put your stuff in a locker. The train station has lockers where you can keep your bags, and then maybe consider grabbing lunch in front of the cathedral because the steeple is ridiculously high. It's like 161.5 meters, and so not a bad place to grab lunch for sure, and it's only a 12-minute walk from the train station. If you do plan to do this though, make sure you're buying separate tickets for each leg because you can't just hop on and get back on unless you have a fully flexible ticket. Of course, if you'd rather not go to that trouble, you can head straight to Munich and spend 2 nights there. I am going to talk all about Munich in the next itinerary, so let's skip over there so that I'm not repeating myself. This itinerary is fully based in Bavaria, so welcome to the BAUBLE-VARIA Advent Tour. I told you, they just get worse. Now, I am clearly so biased because I used to live there, but I truly believe that Munich is one of the best cities to visit in Germany for Christmas markets, which is why in this itinerary, we're actually going to spend 3 nights there. On the first day, I would recommend exploring the classic tourist sites in Munich around the Altstadt, which is conveniently home to many of the more traditional Christmas markets in Munich. The Christmas market in Marienplatz is, of course, a classic, so I recommend checking that off first. But I don't actually think that's the best one for shopping or eating, so I'd recommend you check a few more out in the area. From there, you can easily walk over to the Residence Weihnachtsdorf, which is a really cute and cozy market in a royal courtyard, and they tend to have a lot of different food options there, so it's a great stop for lunch. And then close to there as well in Wittelsbacher Platz is the medieval Christmas market, which is really, really fun. It truly feels like a step back in time. And they even serve their Glühwein and Feuerzangenbowle in these flaming goblets made out of clay. So it's definitely a fun vibe. I would time your visit to get there after dark to make the most of it. Day 2, I would set aside for visiting some of the more alternative Christmas markets in Munich. You can check out my full Munich Christmas video for some more ideas, but generally speaking, I would say on this day, it makes sense to kind of anchor your sightseeing around the U3, U6 U-Bahn line. As you can see in this map created by my friends at Board in Munich, you could essentially spend the entire day kind of hopping on this U-Bahn line, seeing different markets. So you can start at Münchner Freiheit, for instance, and then head out to see the Schwabinger Weihnachtsmarkt, which is essentially a showcase of local artists and is super cool. And from there, you're only one stop away from the Universität U-Bahn station, and from there you could walk over to the iconic Chinese Tower in the English Garden, which has a very cozy Christmas market of its own. I personally really like going there for lunch just because the vibes in the garden are really, really nice, and there tends to be quite a lot of good food stalls there as well. From there, you can hop back on the U-Bahn and go to Sendlinger Tor, which does have a really small market of its own, which is just okay, but a better option is actually walking over to the Glockenbach-Viertel, which is not far, and going to the Pink Christmas Market, which is dedicated to the LGBTQ community of Munich. This market is definitely one to see after sunset because then you get to see the entire market illuminated in pink, and they have a lot of really fun performances in the evening as well. From here, you're also very close to some of the more alternative nightlife spots in Munich. If you're short on time though, what I would recommend is actually spending your evening at the Winter Tollwood Festival, which is held on the grounds of the world-famous Oktoberfest. This market is full of stalls and tents selling everything you can imagine, with an emphasis on fair trade, unique handmade goods, and all organic food from around the world. The vibe here is definitely more alternative and more party-like, but things are actually open later than the traditional markets as well, so this is a really good place to spend an evening or even party well into the night. On day 3, you can continue exploring Munich, or you can head out on a day trip if you want. One of my personal favorites would be Salzburg, which is right over the border in Austria. It takes about an hour and a half to get there, and of course this is the birthplace of Mozart and also where they filmed The Sound of Music, which feels very festive and Christmassy to me because I used to watch The Sound of Music every year on Christmas Day. Needless to say, they also have their own Christmas market, so it's definitely a nice festive day trip that you can do. I've also heard great things about the market on the island of Frauenchiemsee, which is actually the only island Christmas market in the entire country, so definitely worth checking out as a day trip if the timing matches, because I don't think they're open every day. Now on day 4, we're going to take the train to Nuremberg, which takes about an hour and 15 minutes, and we're also going to spend 3 nights there as well. Not only because it has its own international airport, but it is a beautiful city in itself, and it's very, very close to several other beautiful cities that you can do day trips to. The main market here is at the Hauptmarkt, but there are some smaller markets throughout the city, including their Sister Cities market, which is quite unique to Nuremberg, where their dozens of sister cities have different goods on display, often in support of a local charity, so definitely worth looking into. Now, the next day you can of course spend in Nuremberg because there's a lot of really interesting historical sites, but if you want to venture out of the city and see more Christmas markets and that's your priority, then there's quite a few good options. Bamberg is one of my personal favorites that's about an hour away, and honestly, this UNESCO World Heritage Site is one of the most underrated cities in Germany in my opinion, because I feel like a lot of overseas visitors don't think to visit. It's a medieval city, there's a lot of really beautiful storybook architecture, and of course they do have their own Christmas market, as well as some infamous smoked beer that I do think is worth trying. Regensburg is another option that's about an hour away, and honestly this city is also very, very beautiful. Lots of pastel houses, lots of Christmas market stalls as well, and they have one really nice Christmas market that I would recommend to any overseas visitor, and that's the Romantic Christmas Market at the Schloss Thun-in-Taxis, and it's really probably one of the prettiest markets, like just markets on their own that I've been to, just because it's on the grounds of a palace and the way that they've arranged everything is so beautiful. They've got the little lake, they've got a gazebo on top of a hill where you can get sparkling wine. So overall, if you're looking for just one very atmospheric market, I can highly recommend this one. Würzburg is another nice option, but unfortunately I haven't been there, so I can't really speak to what it's like. If you have been, please let me know in the comments if you would recommend it. Now, the last thing I'll mention about this area is I know I said to stay 3 nights in Nuremberg, but if you're looking for a very unique experience, really close to Nuremberg, you'll actually find the world's first and only sausage-themed hotel. You sleep in a room with a sausage pillow, using sausage soap with sausage wallpaper, and there's sausage drying above your bed. Like, it's just so fun. And of course, they do offer dining options there as well, and trust me, you're going to eat more sausage than you have in your entire life. It's really quite the experience. Now, I know these are some very specific tips, but I love sharing these random quirky things, so if you're still with me, do comment ho 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 in the comments so I know that you're still watching and you don't think that I'm an absolute nutcase for sharing such specific itineraries. Now, let's move on to our next itinerary, which is going to be divided between Germany and Belgium, and because of that, I have decided to call it the JINGLE BELL-GIUMANY JAUNT. Cool. So first you're going to fly into Cologne and you're going to spend 2 nights there. Personally, I think that Cologne is one of the best Christmas market cities to visit in Germany just because the markets there are truly, truly stunning. Generally speaking, I would recommend you start with the Cologne Cathedral Christmas market just because it takes place in front of the most notable landmark in the city, if not the country, and it's really, really worth seeing both during the day and at night. So go there first for the wow factor and also to beat the evening crowds, which can be really, really intense. Overall though, I will say the shopping and the vendors here aren't the best, so it's really more of just like an atmosphere thing rather than an actual shopping and eating stop. Out of the main markets, I do think the Harbor Christmas Market and the Stadtgarten Christmas Market are both good ones to do during the day because shopping really is more the focus of these ones. And ones that I would definitely recommend saving for the evening include the Heinzel's Wintermärchen Market in the Old Town and the Markt der Engel in the Neumarkt, just because these really, really come alive at night. Now, day 2, you can easily spend just exploring Cologne, but if you're feeling a bit more ambitious, then there are a lot of different cities that you can easily visit by train. One of them is Bonn, which is only 30 minutes away. This city is known as the birthplace of Beethoven and also Haribo, the company that originated the gummy bear. But they also have some really nice Christmas markets in the city center, plus one really small but cute medieval market just outside of the city in Siegburg. Düsseldorf is another possibility. The fastest trains can get you there in less than 30 minutes. And there's 7 main markets there to explore if you want to diversify. You can easily explore them all on foot in just a few hours, especially once you're in the Old Town. But my personal favorite one to check out is the Fairy Tale Market in Shadowplatz. Now, after 2 solid days exploring the markets in and around Cologne, it's time to hop on the train to Aachen, which takes about 35 minutes, and that's where we're going to spend the next 2 nights. Aachen is a city known for its cathedral, one of the world's first ever UNESCO heritage sites, with an epic chapel that's home to Charlemagne's throne and remains, and some parts of the cathedral that are over 1,000 years old. They're also famous for their print-in gingerbread cookies, so overall it's a very nice festive destination. Aachen is small, so seeing the markets here is pretty easy. You'll find pretty much all the stalls between the cathedral and the city hall, which are the 2 main sites anyway. So I would say explore it at your own leisure and be sure to keep an eye out for their mascot, which is indeed a giant print-in man. From Aachen, a very easy day trip that you can do is over to Monschau, which is one of the cutest little towns in Germany. Not only is the backdrop impossibly picturesque, they also have some really cute Christmas market stalls and decorations all throughout the town. Now, for the last 2 days of this itinerary, we're going to head over to Brussels, the capital of Belgium, for a final festive frolic. Brussels is only about an hour and a half away from Aachen if you hop on a high-speed train, and while I don't think that Brussels is the nicest city in Belgium, it does really make sense for this itinerary because A, they go all out for the festive season, and B, they have a really big international airport, so you can fly out of there if you wish. The main thing that you need to know is that in Brussels, the Christmas markets are kind of all part of a really cool festival known as the Brussels Winter Wonders. And this includes several pop-up markets, installations, and a really beautiful light show at Grand Place every evening. So I definitely recommend spending the day exploring all the different sites that are part of Winter Wonders, especially because they are intentionally designed to be kind of in the same spaces as the main tourist sites of Brussels anyway. So it's very easy for you to check everything off your list. That said, Belgium is a very compact country, so if after the first day you do feel like you've seen everything that you need to see, it's quite easy to just hop on a train and within an hour be in a completely different city that has a completely different vibe. Bruges, Ghent, and Antwerp are all about an hour away and are all cities that have their own Christmas festivities and their own identity and are also really worth checking out. Now, leaving the last day for departures like we're doing with all the other itineraries, let's move on to the next one, which is called the Capital Christmas Crawl, because it includes 2 European capitals, Berlin and Prague, as well as Dresden, which is the capital of my heart. So for this itinerary, what I recommend is you fly into Berlin and spend 2 nights there. Granted, 2 nights is not a lot for Berlin because it is a massive city, so I would definitely recommend spending longer if you want to see more of the museums and the culture, but treat it as a bare minimum. Now, I should say there are over 60 different Christmas markets in Berlin throughout the festive season, so planning can be really overwhelming. So the system that I recommend using is kind of deciding which places in Berlin you want to visit as a tourist, so what museums, what sites, what monuments, and then choosing the Christmas markets that are closest to those sites. And the reason I say that is because the Christmas markets in Berlin, they are nice, but really kind of like the main standout feature of them is that there's so many to choose from. Because to be honest with you, the markets that you're going to be seeing in Dresden will be way, way nicer than the ones in Berlin. So prioritize your sightseeing first and choose your Christmas markets kind of as a bonus on top of that. So for the first day, what I would recommend is a mixture of sightseeing and markets. In Mitte, the central part of Berlin, some markets that I prefer to actually see during the day because the backdrops are nice include the Rotes Rathaus Christmas Market, as well as the Alexanderplatz Christmas Market, and luckily they're quite close together. Admittedly, the one at Alexanderplatz doesn't really have a lot of good stuff to sell, but it does have a fun vibe because there's a lot of different food and drink stalls, including some covered ones, and you do have a nice backdrop with one of the most iconic landmarks of Berlin being the TV tower right behind you. Then in the evening, some of the main tourist spots are really worth checking out, especially because they're all decked out for Christmas. So that includes Brandenburg Gate as well as the Sony Center. For a cozy classic experience, I do also recommend the Gendarmenmarkt Christmas Market. They usually have a pretty great entertainment program here, so I'd say staying here for the evening is a really good bet. And if you're spending time in West Berlin, a really nice Christmas market to visit during the day is the one right by the Kaiser Wilhelm Church, especially because they have a lot of local vendors, so you're more likely to find some unique gifts. Then from there, you're pretty close to Schloss Charlottenburg. There, you can really enjoy the royal backdrops and the fun atmosphere. If you do find the time, try to visit the Nordic-themed Lucia Market as well, because it's probably one of the cozier and more atmospheric ones in Berlin. And of course, that's plenty to fill 2 days, but do remember that one of the highlights of Berlin's Christmas market scene is that there's just so many small niche markets. So in advance of your trip, do go on the Visit Berlin website and look at the dates for all the different local markets and try to find some that are smaller because again, that's kind of what makes the Berlin Christmas market scene so special. Now on day 3, we're gonna take the train to Dresden, which is about 2 hours. Dresden is a gorgeous city that is home to many impressive records, including the world's tallest Christmas pyramid, the world's largest walk-in candle arch, and one of the oldest Christmas markets in Germany, the Striezelmarkt, which is celebrating its 590th anniversary this year. Luckily, unlike Berlin, it is a very compact city, so quite easy to do in 2 days. In addition to the historic Striezelmarkt, there's also a really cool medieval market that's held in a royal courtyard, some nice markets around the iconic Frauenkirche, as well as some niche markets like an international one with food options from around the world. Oh, and a great local specialty to try here is known as Handbrot, which is like hand bread. And it's basically just a bready pillow stuffed with cheese, so really worth trying while you're here. Now on day 5, we're gonna head to Prague. Now I'll be honest and say that the Christmas markets in Prague aren't really as grand as the ones you'll find in Dresden or really most German cities. But the one winning factor with Prague's Christmas markets is that it's Prague, one of the most beautiful cities in Europe. So definitely worth seeing and definitely worth adding to your itinerary. But again, as with Berlin, I would treat the Christmas markets as kind of a bonus to add onto your Prague sightseeing rather than the main star of the show. The main market in Prague can be found in Old Town Square, where the backdrop is admittedly stunning. But do beware that the stalls here tend to sell more souvenir-like goods, and some of the food stalls can be quite deceptive as well. Oftentimes, if you read the signs carefully, it'll say that they sell the meat by 100 grams, and the price that you see is just for a 100-gram amount. So sometimes they'll shave you off like a bunch of meat and then you end up paying an extortionate amount for an insane amount of ham. So do beware that some of these scams can be common, and you'll usually find them in the Old Town Square and in some of the market stalls in the busier tourist areas like in Wenceslas Square and to a lesser extent Republic Square. The other main Christmas market destination in Prague is of course at Prague Castle, which is actually the largest castle complex in the world. So also worth seeing for its Christmas market or not. That said, if you're looking for a cute local vibe, where I would recommend you go is actually Nemesi Miru, which is a very, very cute little market that you do have to venture a little farther out for, but I found that the selection of gifts and things to buy was just way better and less tacky. Now next is an itinerary that I call the SWISSMAS BLISS, which of course takes place in the scenic country of Switzerland. So for this itinerary, I recommend flying into Basel, which, fun fact, is actually one of the few airports in the world that is shared by 2 countries. So when you arrive in Basel, you're actually going to see that there's 2 different exits, one for France and one for Switzerland. For this itinerary, we're gonna go out the Swiss exit and we're gonna stay in the city for 2 nights. What's really cool about staying in Basel is the city has this special program where when you stay there overnight, you actually get something that's called a Basel card, and that's going to include free public transport all around the city, as well as several other perks. Now, Basel is very compact, so I would recommend spending your first day kind of just exploring the old town, seeing the sights. Then at 5 p.m., make sure you head to the Theater Basel, where every day from December 1st to December 24th, they actually host a live advent calendar. So every day at 5 p.m., there's a special performance that's opera, ballet, or something else that's unique to the theater. So definitely quite cool to see. After that, I would spend the evening meandering around the 2 main Christmas markets, which are located in Münsterplatz and Barfüßerplatz. In addition to these markets though, there are plenty of stalls kind of scattered in between them, so there's plenty to enjoy. For day 2, you can stay in Basel, or if you feel like you've seen most of the main sites, then you can potentially head out on a day trip to see some more places. Within an hour by train, you can head to Freiburg in Germany, Mulhouse or Colmar in France, and of course, many other places in Switzerland. Now for day 3, we're gonna hop on the train from Basel to Zurich, which takes just over an hour. And we're gonna spend 2 nights there. Zurich has 5 main Christmas markets scattered around the city, and the magic starts right when you arrive at the train station, where there's the Christkindlmarkt, known for its 10-meter tall Christmas tree and over 100 stalls. Then I would recommend spending the day in Zurich's Old Town, where you can admire the cute architecture and also visit the Dörfli Weihnachtsmarkt along with many of the local shops in the area. Then in the early evening, make your way over to Waldmühleplatz, where they have, not even joking, a singing Christmas tree that is basically like a Christmas tree podium where they invite different choirs from across the country to perform every evening. There's plenty of shopping opportunities all along here as well on the main shopping strip of Bahnhofstrasse, including some very, very pretty twinkling lights that are suspended all throughout the street. And fun fact, the locals actually call these illuminations Lucy, which I feel like is really cute. I'd recommend you end your day at the Zurich Viennese Village, which is right by the Opera House. This is probably the prettiest Christmas market in the city with a great atmosphere. Now for day 4, you can keep it chill and stay in Zurich, or you could explore some of the other markets nearby, like in Winterthur, Rapperswil-Jona, or Einsiedeln. But as always with smaller markets, do make sure you are double checking their opening hours because these ones tend to not be open every day. So for day 5, I do admit this part of the itinerary gets a bit faster paced, so feel free to adjust it accordingly, but I do have to say there is some method to my madness. So for this portion of the trip, I recommend you take the train from Zurich to Lucerne. This stunning lakeside city is known for its unique chapel bridge, which is the oldest covered bridge in Europe. And yes, it does have a few Christmas markets of its own, the main one being the Lucerne Christmas Market at Franziskanerplatz. But the real reason we're spending the night in Lucerne is because if you sleep here, the next morning you can hop on the train to our final stop, Montreux. And this is one of the most scenic train rides in Switzerland that you can enjoy. The train ride I'm talking about is called the Golden Pass, and it's specifically the journey between Zweisimmen and Montreux that is really special because on this route you have the choice of hopping onto the Belle Epoque train, which is honestly the most beautiful train ride you can do in Switzerland, specifically when you book first class because it looks like something straight out of the Orient Express. That said, if you're not too bothered about doing the scenic train ride, then you can of course just take the train directly from Lucerne to Lausanne, which sound really similar but are actually different cities. Lausanne is just over 2 hours away, and you can either stay there in Lausanne or continue onwards to Montreux, which takes about 20 minutes from there. The markets in Lausanne are nice, and the city is actually the headquarters of the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, so they have an incredible Olympics museum that's there. That said, the markets are a bit more modern, and so if you're looking for a more cozy traditional experience, I would say definitely go to Montreux. And from there, you can also visit the Château de Chillon, which is the castle that the Prince Eric Castle from Little Mermaid is based off of. And lastly, we have an itinerary that I call a very British Christmas. And naturally, this one is all focused on the UK. This itinerary is mainly for people who want to see London at Christmas time. Because I'll be honest with you, the Christmas markets in the UK really do pale in comparison to the ones that you find in Germany, France, Switzerland, and Austria. But London does have an incredible festive season, so if you're keen to see London for Christmas, this itinerary is for you. For this one, we're going to spend 4 nights in London. And realistically, it's tough to do less than this in London because there's just so much to see. Now, I think where London really thrives during the festive season is in its decor and in its lights. So at some point during your trip, do make sure you set an evening aside to go see all the best Christmas lights in Mayfair and also Soho. My pro tip for you though is to do all your shopping during the day. So these areas tend to be the busiest areas in London during the Christmas season because it's where all the shops are. So if you want to go shopping, do it during the day, especially in the morning when it's less busy, and then come back in the evening after the shops have closed to go look at the lights. Now, another tip is to really just plan your London Christmas itinerary around the main sites that you want to see in London, and then choosing Christmas markets that are close to those sites. And that's just because the Christmas markets in London, like I said, they're really not that special or exciting. And so a lot of the time you do find they are close to the touristy sites anyway. If you want to see Tower Bridge, for instance, there is a Christmas market there. If you want to see Trafalgar Square, there's a Christmas market there as well, and in Leicester Square too. So don't necessarily plan your trip around seeing the Christmas markets, but plan around where you want to go in the city, and if there happens to be a Christmas market there, then that's great. Anyways, there's more than enough to fill your first 3 days in London, so I would focus on that first, especially venturing out to other neighborhoods too would be nice. In particular, Chelsea and Knightsbridge tend to go really all out for Christmas. Then on day 4, you can either stay in London, or I would recommend you head out on a day trip of some kind. Oxford is a really great pick that's about an hour away by train. This historic university town is full of dreamy stone facades, as well as a little Christmas market of its own. But I would recommend it more for its proximity to Blenheim Palace, which is the birthplace of Winston Churchill and somewhere that also goes all out for Christmas, with a little Christmas market on the grounds and a fun festive light trail. But not only that, they decorate the interior in a really impressive way as well, according to a different theme every year. So it's really worth checking out. Especially since it's only a 20-minute drive from Oxford, or you can also catch the bus there and it takes about an hour, including a pretty long walk. Another potential day trip is over to Hampton Court Palace, which is infamously the home of Henry VIII, among others. This palace is not only super interesting history-wise, but they have their own Christmas market and skating rink on the grounds. You can get there from London in about an hour. Now for the second portion of this itinerary, I'm going to give you 2 options because I couldn't really choose. Option A is then spending 2 nights in Bath. This is my personal preference because Bath is one of my favorite cities in the UK, and their Christmas market is actually really nice with the iconic Bath Abbey in the background. Plus, a really cool thing about Bath is that they prioritize local makers in their vendor stalls, so everything you see actually is a local business to support rather than something that's mass-produced. Option B is spending 2 nights in Birmingham. Now, if you're familiar with the UK, you would probably find this to be quite a random choice, but I do need to clarify the reason, which is that Birmingham is actually home to the largest German-style Christmas market outside of Central Europe. So if you want to have a German Christmas market experience in the UK, Birmingham is probably the better choice. As far as recreating the German Christmas market experience, they do a pretty solid job, with many of the same stalls and food and drink options available. With a British twist though, which is how I ended up drinking an ice-cold beer in the middle of November. There are also some unique attractions in the vicinity, like the Black Country Living Museum, which goes all out for Christmas, and Cadbury World. Of course, there is a third option in terms of your last few nights. You could also take the train or fly up to Edinburgh. Edinburgh is quite well known for its Christmas festivities. Unfortunately, I haven't personally been, so I can't vouch for it. But if you're hoping to explore a bit of Scotland as well during your time in the UK, really Edinburgh would be a great choice if you have a bit more time. All right, thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments which itinerary appeals to you the most. Be sure to share your itinerary ideas as well. And please like and subscribe for more travel videos just like this one. I'll see you next time. Bye!